Come on in from the narthex. Y'all. Reverend Mom means it. Come on. Greeters, wave them in. I worry you didn't hear poor Emily's amazing announcements. Must be a guest. For those who know who it is, you'll laugh. That's my offspring. Good morning. I am the Reverend Denise Colley, and my pronouns are she and her, and it is my honor to serve as your interim minister of Countryside Church, UU. Welcome. My mother was surprised to hear this morning that that means I'm only here for a couple of years. We work during times between longer-term ministers to do lots of housekeeping and help the congregation figure out who you are and take the next step in your growth. So that's part of the work of interim. And I am delighted to be leading this service on Love is a Verb. So please find a place today in the sanctuary. We've angled some of the chairs to help with body ergonomics. We have lots of space if you need to stand or stretch or sway. And children and adults are welcome to any part of our service, and those in religious education will attend after the worship for all ages. Very special welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. We strive to be a spiritual community of our time focused on diverse theological perspectives, inclusion, and knowing that issues of service, justice, and equity shape everything we do. James Baldwin remarked on love, saying, "Love does not begin and end the way we seem to think it does. Love is a battle. Love is a war. Love is a growing up." Today and always, we aim to join in the spirit of love. We are your community. If you have not signed the membership book, I encourage you to become a covenanted member here because we're ready to be your community too. We support liberal progressive values at a time when the world needs loving community more than ever. And ask me or your board member Emily, who gave the announcements today, and we can help you get on that path to membership. Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd says, "Only when we acknowledge our own limitations, when we acknowledge that our assumptions might be wrong, we need one another now more than ever. We need love to spread and grow now more than ever. And this, today, is your invitation to love."
Good morning. My name is Lois Phillips, and my pronouns are she and her. This is my Valentine, who I met more than 20 years ago.
And I am Jeff Phillips. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Today's Valentine chalice lighting comes to us from Reverend Denise, and it is entitled Love Is. Please light your home chalice, those of you at home on Zoom there, and join us in saying these words upon the screen. Are there words upon the screen?
I don't see words on the screen.
Okay.
But
Listen to Lois.
I'll speak these words. When the spark of love glows, it melts away wrinkled brows and draws up smiles. Love strikes us when we are seen and heard. Love ignites in us a glimmering joy when we work together.
Love comes in as many forms as snowflake patterns, infinite and beautiful. Love is not just a feeling, but a practice. It is a way of being. For many of us, and say this together with me, love is our religion.
Is our religion.
One more time. Love is our religion. Thank you. So now please rise if you're willing and able and sing with us hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Afterward, please remain standing for our covenant.
We are a covenantal community, and we honor that the way we include one another and invite more in, as well as how we solve our problems, is covenantal. We use our covenants as living documents that guide how we want to be together. At this time, I invite you to rise, but you've already risen, and recite our congregational covenant together. We unite to strengthen the bonds of kinship among all persons, to promote human dignity, and to increase reverence for life's creating, sustaining, and transforming power through worship, study, and service.
Good morning. My name is Yvette Johnson. My pronouns are she and hers.
My name is Lisa Christensen. My pronouns are she and her.
As Unitarian Universalists, we side with love in many ways. We live out our UU values through acts of caring and service, both large and small.
In our families, in our friendships, in this congregation, in our schools and workplaces and neighborhoods, across our country and all over the world, our acts of caring and service make the spirit of love visible and tangible.
When you entered the sanctuary today, you received a sticky note, we hope. Did you all receive your sticky notes? One for each member of your family here. Ushers can supply you with one now if you don't have one yet. Raise your hand now if you need a sticky note or a pen to write with. You may also take a sticky note or pen to share with others in your row.
The choir could use some sticky notes too.
On your sticky note, write down one act of caring and service that you have done in the last year, or maybe even in the last week. If it is easier for you, draw a picture of how you care and serve. We'll name some ways to make love tangible in case you need ideas.
If you have done something helpful for a friend in need, that is an act of caring and service. When we send a thoughtful card, give someone a ride, Bring food to a neighbor in their time of grief. Hold someone in prayer or meditation. Take notes for a classmate who is sick. Model and remind each other about covenantal behavior. We are creating a Valentine of caring.
If you have been kind to animals, that is an act of caring and service. When we offer birdseed in the winter, care for our gardens without pesticides in the summer, walk our dogs, play with our cats, volunteer at the animal shelter, clean up after our pets, plant flowers for bees and butterflies, we are creating a Valentine of caring.
If you have offered public witness for a more just, equitable, and fair world, that is an act of caring and service. When we help people register to vote, write to our legislators, speak up for equality, learn about racial justice, sponsor and protect refugees, build coalitions for change, we are creating a Valentine of caring.
If you have volunteered to make someone's life or this world a better place, this is an act of caring and service. When we increase access to food and clean water, work in a community garden, help out with food for pads or in a soup kitchen, visit friends in prison, collect blankets, knit hats, plant trees, help a neighbor learn a new language, volunteer for the church, we are creating a Valentine of caring.
We have so many ways of showing love. Write yours down on a sticky note. When you're finished, please pass your note down to the east end of your row, toward the wall of windows, where one of our awesome helpers will collect it. For those of you at home, type your note into the chat box so that we can capture your acts of caring onto a sticky note here at church. We're going to write our sticky notes now.
As our community Valentine of caring takes shape, please reflect on all the ways that this community, as a collective whole, shines its chalice of love into the world.
For these and many other ways our beloved community shows its loving care to the world, we give thanks.
Thank you for these beautiful acts of caring and the beautiful Valentine we've created as a community. And now, young people may follow me to their religious exploration sessions.
Jeff just asked, there's no story for all ages? I said that was the story for all ages. It's actually part of the things that get reviewed for all ministers as they ask how often you're doing interactive kinds of stories and things that pull from different cultures. And technically, we aren't supposed to do whole books every week because it's a publishing issue with us not getting permission for them. So just a little, hi, I'm the interim, guess what? So, some weeks it's good to do something else. So we'll keep mixing it up. So today, in place of our meditation or pastoral moment or prayer, we are going to hear two messages of love about love in this congregation. And so as we celebrate giving and love in our pledge and stewardship season, giving is indeed an act of love. And first today we are going to hear from Natalie Krestev, who visited us in 2019 and then joined in 2021 during the pandemic. So come on up, Natalie.
Good morning. My name is Natalie Krestev. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and here's my personal story. My family was not religious growing up. We attended Methodist church for a little while when I was very young. I was always a short kid, so one of the only things I regularly remember being able to see during service was the offering plate floating past me. The rest of the service was a sea of heads before me. I always wondered what the plate was for, but it was as enigmatic to me as the service itself. During one service, I remember being called up with a bunch of other kids and being handed a gold-covered Good News Bible. We all sat there in the front for a while, bemused, with a rather stoic congregation staring at us while the minister tried to impress upon us the importance of that book we had. My family didn't attend that church much longer after that fateful day, but I still have that book. I have an extremely complicated relationship with my family, and as a result, as I grew, I felt an aching lack of connection. I remembered how often people talked about the Father, and I thought, hey, I'd like to have one of those that likes me, and I always hear that Jesus loves me from religious folks, so I'll go read that Bible I was given at service. After plowing into Genesis and agonizingly picking through the bulk of the rest of it, I didn't really find I felt any more loved. At one point, trying to summon some sense of connection and acceptance, I decided to start my own little religion. I saved my money carefully, and I bought some rabbit skin pelts for an altar, and I absconded with some candles and candlesticks from my parents' house. And at night, I would set up these little items on a stool in my room, and I would pray for an ancestor to come to me that would love me. I would strike poses of power and supplication in front of my little altar, and I convinced myself that my great-grandmother had come to me for a while, and she would put the taste of butterscotch in my mouth when I was at my saddest. But my childish confidence and my imagination gave way to adolescence, and so I lost that sense of someone being with me in my darkness. At 15, in a moment of crisis, I made my way to my local library. I borrowed a book by Thich Nhat Hanh called The Heart of the Buddhist Teaching. It opened with a promise that the Buddhist heart was open to me because he shared and understood my suffering, and I wept at feeling the rush of acceptance. I read that book many, many, many times, but I found that the Buddhist communities I tried to connect with didn't necessarily practice that same acceptance in reality. I was Baha'i for about 2 years. The idea, again, of Baha'u'llah loving me was intoxicating during another low point in my life. I even read my prayer book while I was jogging because I was so thirsty to feel that wash of love. I do not recommend this. But my question about what we were supposed to believe was never satisfyingly answered by the congregation. And many of our meetings came down to tossing around accusations of why we weren't all donating more money to the temple. Donating money to a mission of faith is important, but I wasn't sure I knew what our goals were if I couldn't even answer questions about my faith clearly. I never donated much. I had a long period of avoiding religion altogether. I married my husband in an Orthodox church, and as I was experiencing a paradigm shift within myself, away from organized religion and towards agnosticism. Some of this change in my thinking came from an incredibly traumatic year that was punctuated by the birth of my oldest son. As I looked into his tiny face, I realized I wanted his experiences with religion and parenting to be different than mine. I needed to do things differently. It took me a long time to find CCUU. At first, I was reticent, waiting to feel the same disappointment I've felt so many times before. But as I kept coming back to Countryside, I heard in the voices here the acceptance I'd waited for so long from a metaphysical entity. But instead, it was from people. And that acceptance wasn't just for me. It was for everyone. I heard space and respect for other people's beliefs and a genuine desire to uplift and support. I felt so afraid to be let down again, but hope grew in my heart, and not just for me, but for my boys. My oldest son has a dual diagnosis of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. His brother likely has the same. Having acceptance when you connect differently, express yourself differently, and think differently can be so challenging. But watching this congregation do so many wonderful things, I heard you all share so much love with the world, and I knew then that there would be space and patience for them here. I felt that even in moments when my boys would struggle, there would be patience and guidance that was rooted in love and respect for human dignity to help them grow. And so I know what the mission here is. I'm not wondering what my money might be going towards. When my family donates to CCUU, we're donating to supporting love and compassion. I am donating to a future where the next generation of children being raised in this environment can share that same love and compassion with the world they go into because they feel it to their core, because you all helped put it there. Giving hasn't always been easy for my family, as it often isn't for many of us. My family personally regularly experiences financial challenges, often medical. So giving is a careful calculation we have to make to include our own well-being. But I know it's worth it. I remember telling Mary Sheldon when we were first joining CCUU that I wish I could tithe, which is the practice of giving 10% of your income to the church. And that's still a goal I hold because lifting up the dedicated individuals that make RE and Sunday service and all our community work possible feels so valuable. There have been many times I wish I could give more, but it's only because the gift of this community is priceless to me. Thank you.
Thank you. There are many within Unitarian Universalism, because we hold many beliefs here. There are many who believe that your ancestors are smiling on you. I believe our Unitarian Universalist ancestors are smiling on you. Jeff Phillips joined Countryside 24 years ago. Maybe he was around before that too, but our records say 24 years ago. Lots of us know him for many, many hats that he holds, and I'm going to have him share a bit of a personal side of his love of Countryside now.
Hey, first, how about that wall? That's really something. In the words of Led Zeppelin, that's a whole lot of love. Okay, my name is Jeff Phillips, and pop quiz, what are my pronouns? He and his, him, whatever. Okay, yes. I wanted to share with you this morning a few of the ways that being part of this congregation has changed me. You all know me now, but maybe not then. And what that's been worth to me. I joined CCUU in 1998, initially so that our children could gain an understanding and appreciation of world religions. We considered it important for them to be conversant in religion, and what I didn't expect is that I would be receiving a religious education, and what I learned went way further. This specific faith and the faith community would ground me, sustain me through some momentous life changes. My first marriage was centered around the needs of my wife and 2 kids, and I was the sole breadwinner, so I had little time for friendships, let alone music making or anything else, while my role was sustaining the family. At Countryside, then, I met a parade of people who were friendly, interesting, easy to converse with. I liked their inclusiveness and their practical, intellectual approach to religion. I joined the choir, and I found that people liked me for me, irrespective of my family. I felt connected and grounded, and that was kind of the beginning of the end of my first marriage. More on that some other time. Anyway, my kids, some of you might remember Clay and Carly, and my stepsons Noah and Ben Cohn, came up through the religious education program, and I was so proud of them as they made their affirmations, processed through the OWL program, did youth cons, and finally senior high bridging. They received all the religious education I'd wished for them and more. They fine-tuned their moral compasses. Clay even met the woman who would become his wife at a con right in that room, right here at CCUU. Then I married the lovely and talented choir member Lois K. Phillips in 2004 in this very room with an interim minister presiding. You know, Lois and I took part in the classes leading up to certification of becoming a welcoming congregation. By a show of hands, who else was in those classes at that time? Wow.
We need to do them again.
A couple of people. It's time to do this again. Anyway, how entirely useful that education would be, particularly in the course of understanding transgender. As a result of that course, Lois and I were able to become transition liaisons to my family as my brother became my sister. We were the open ears, open arms, strategic helpers that my sister and her wife needed, and that was a vital and fulfilling role. Since then, I've also had 2 nieces become nephews, and their transitions were much easier because of the path that Lois and I walked with my sister. So, what is this congregation worth to me? Religious and life skills education for my kids, continuing education for me, support for my own search and guidance through divorce and remarriage, insight and understanding of the gender spectrum, enduring friendships and ongoing fellowship. Man, it's worth all the support that I can afford to give in volunteer time, equipment donations, and importantly, operating capital. I invite you to take time to consider what this congregation is worth to you. What would you pay for this, right? And present and future, and show support in all you do, starting with your pledge for the operating budget. Lois and I will be increasing our pledge by the amount that we gave for the year-end Tuesday Giving appeal. And I invite you to start by at least doing the same. It's worth it, I promise. Thank you.
Love is a verb. It's something we do, not something that hits us. When I always hear about people waiting to fall in love, I imagine like this cloud coming, right? And then they'll fall over, right? Love isn't a feeling we suddenly get hit with and then experience love, but instead we experience love by actions. Action is the first. When we are cherished and we help one another grow, that is when we feel love. Love is our aim in doing spiritual practice, to grow our hearts, to grow our minds. That's why I talk about having a spiritual practice, whether it's a meditation or a walk or forest bathing or drawing or music making. Whether you pray or journal, you're doing some discerning often during that time. You're letting your mind not be the primary focus of directing your thoughts, but you're letting your subconscious come forward. And in that, you often grow in love. For love of a thing is easy. Love as a result of action is much more challenging. My desire with today's service is that we renew ourselves in spiritual practice and put love into action. We must live out our UU commitments, our covenants that we have. They create more love. They show us ways to be with one another so that we can make more love in the world, both in ourselves and in others. And I'm so delighted to be with you on that path. But let's visit the history of Valentine's Day for a moment. I follow a theology blog called SALT. They shared that before Hallmark, before long-stemmed roses delivered to your door or your desk, before heart-shaped boxes of chocolate with embossed flavor maps, there was Saint Valentine. Actually, there might have been two Saint Valentines. History's a little murky, and it includes legends about an early Christian priest, or was it a bishop? Martyred, perhaps, serendipitously helping Christians to wed, like on the down low. Valentine's Day was created to bring love together in a time where Christians were vilified. Jesus-inspired folks were not supposed to keep coming together in marriage because people were being pushed out of their ancient faiths into Greek religion. And if Christians married, they might make Christian children. Totally controversial. I mean, if two Christians marry, do they automatically get a Christian child? Does it sound familiar, like an argument you might have been around in the past 10 or so years? Some of us have helped same-gender identified folks get to marry as well. I know I have. It's a similar quest. A past congregant of mine named Jeff Brown shared with me the opening of an essay he wrote on love, stating, "Perhaps the most inadequate word in the English language is love. Greek, Japanese, Mandarin, and many other languages have multiple words for love because those cultures recognize the diverse things and events evolved in what we call love." Our media is saturated with images of love. We use the word in reference to all kinds of relationships between a parent and child, between any two adults, between siblings, between humans and other species, between humans and God. We use the word love to reference any activity we like. We use it as a counterweight to negative emotions like anger and hatred. Love is a verb. Love is an action. I believe love is a decision, one that you participate in an ongoing action, renewing your commitment to the act of love. The details about the history of Valentine's Day or Saint Valentine's Day are murky. In 1969, the Roman Catholic Church officially discontinued liturgical veneration of St. Valentine. He was canceled. Though he's still on the list of recognized saints. I don't know what that means. But the holiday lives on, and it turns out that Chaucer, the English poet, author, civil servant, best known for the Canterbury Tales, may be the reason why the popularity of St. Valentine continued. The late medieval poet penned the Parliament of Fowls sometime around 1375. Embellished by more than a little poetic license, between courtly love and St. Valentine's feast day, February 14th, Chaucer wrote, "Is the day birds come together to find a mate? For this was sent on St. Valentine's Day. One every fowl cometh to their chooseth mate." A lovely day indeed, and as the poet's fame spread, so did the day associated with affection, both avian and human. But however fanciful these various legends may be, there's a deeper wisdom beneath the whimsy. For centuries in Christian thought, the most prestigious book in the Bible, the graduate school of Christian spirituality, wasn't Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, or the book of Genesis, nor Psalms. It was Song of Songs. Song of Songs is a collection of love poems forming a book in the canonical Jewish scriptures and in the Roman Catholic canon of the Old Testament, and corresponding to the Song of Solomon in the Protestant canon of the Old Testament. These poems and stories are stories of intimate love. They are juicy, my friends. There is a bounty. There is fruitful stories. Love is found and lost. Love wanders when given freely with consent. It blooms flowers. These books of scripture are what some might call racy and romantic. If you missed them, go back and check it out. While they are about love in a world fraught with danger, we see the poem sometimes interpreted as an unsurpassed figurative portrait of the love between God and God's people. When we think about romantic relationships, they too are full of adventure and danger and journeys, and ideally, fruitful effort that brings peace. Love with anyone or with a community ideally includes intensity, intimacy, and delight. This is a story of a sacramental parable for understanding God, love, and change. Divine love is tender and kind, immersive and ecstatic, full of longing and delight. It's vulnerable, beautiful, gentle, and strong. St. Valentine, whomever that may have been, sought to wed and bring communities together, even unlikely, unexpected communities. Now, you may have heard about me. I love homemade valentines, so I was very excited when Mary brought this idea for this service, Time for All Ages, or Worship for All Ages. To me, we should all give Valentines all year round, both in cards and treats, but especially in acts of love. I appreciate how this community often does that. Love is in soup, we'll see after service today. It is in soup people bring to one another when someone is ill, in rides to doctors. We love showing our love through acts of service like washing the windows in the sanctuary, pulling weeds, helping people find housing that need a different style of housing in their life now. I'm thinking of those that go to community living. We love helping those at Chalice House get rides to appointments or register for school. A living theologian in our faith that I admire, I mentioned earlier, Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd. She has some great books that you can find by our UU bookstore. Says only when we acknowledge our own limitations, when we acknowledge that our assumptions might be wrong, our numbers too small to do all that must be done, our vision too narrow to embrace the whole of our calling, can we come into our potential by joining with wider religious community, with broader ideas and broader capacities. We need one another now more than ever. Not as identified theists or humanists, not as UUs or Christians, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as shared stakeholders in the future. Caring for the congregation, we are offered a classroom for learning how to save our future. We are learning how to work in community, and I know it's not always easy. We show up for one another. We heal hearts and hurts. As your minister, I have sat with people while they cry. I have accompanied people discerning divorce or breakups. I have helped some who are frozen in fear come up with a mantra to get them through the next scary moment. I do that because I am your minister, and as your minister, my goal is to help you connect with the healers within yourself, and then help you do that for others too. In this community, we have lay ministry, a pastoral team of listeners for our stories. Take them up on their service. We have an incredible team familiar with everything from PTSD and war and trauma, disability and alcoholism and even psychosis. And often they listen to the lonely and they comfort the afflicted. As your minister, I aim to be a Valentine all year long and do that in community with you. I am both someone who gets to guide our community in learning to deeply care for one another, and someone who encourages you to get back to that practice. I was just talking to people last weekend, about, I've gotten away from it. And I said, me too. I have to work on my spiritual practice too, so check in on me as well. I love helping people figure out why groups you are in might be having bumps, or when you need to stop and gather more knowledge, give you resources for your journey to love. And in that journey, I too learn and gain more skills from working with you. Now, I don't know about you, but I think the skills that you can practice here and try on are applicable to tons of other places, right? One of my degrees came from a liberal arts school where everyone learns how to address the nature of group work. Students learned that in their every group project, there are limitations and there are limiters. Limitations are factors of time or money or talent. Those we can often change. We can learn how to use time better. We can teach one another how to raise more funds, be more generous, or find talent we need to move forward. Limitations often can be changed with hope, and our stewardship campaign is a future with hope, right? Limiters tend to be those naysayers in a group, or maybe in your family, or the school board, or at work, right? They might be catastrophizers, worst case scenario reporters, and discouraging downers. I have a term I made up. It's called HRC, Help Rejecting Complainer. I'm like, oh, they doing that HRC thing? Okay, got it. Expect them to say it won't work, it cannot be tried, it's impossible, or we did that already. Sometimes they report needed reality checks, but limiters do it in a way that often subverts the whole group. So this is where covenant comes in. We can help one another through this by looking at our covenant. In church settings, they might do it because they are sure that if they do not, the congregation will be lost. They are really coming from a place in their heart that they love the congregation, but they often, with the best of intentions, hold deep fear that it may or may not actually take into consideration new information or best practices or data or love. I think you see this in every community you're in. Be sure to ask yourself if you're a limiter, or if you're a limiter in certain situations, why? Because we're not here to diss you. We're here to help you get through it together, right? If you have a group that becomes difficult and seems to come down to one or two people, ask, why are they doing that? Not just like, hey, why are they doing that? I don't mean that. I mean, why? I wonder what's going on there. Do they hold fear? Can you get them to name the fear? Hey, I notice you're really worried about this. I think we're all worried. What do you think your worst case scenario is? Let's just put it out there. Let's name it. And then ask if we could partner on a new path. Because one thing I know about Unitarian Universalists, we are brilliant people. There often are answers out there amongst us if you're willing to admit that you're not quite sure how to do this. Or there's strength if you say, I'm really worried. Can you help me? That question, that request opens up opportunity. So what unmet needs do they have? Asking what they need under the complaining, under the stated fear, under the need. That's a big step that I missed in undergrad. I was that first one going, what do they want to complain about now, right? When I was an undergrad, right? Group work, dread, right? But now I get it. Now I get that this is how we can actually solve problems. Not any one of us can solve climate change alone, but a lot of us together can do amazing things. Not one of us can go fix all of the issues of asylum seekers, but my gosh, this group of 185 pledge units and 260 some people has Chalice House, right? Together we can do things. I also, in undergrad, would think my goal was to get as far away as I could from the limiters, right? Don't get in a group with them, just don't, no, right? The funny thing is those people continue to show up in our lives. If we were taking a Buddhist look at that, we would say, our teachers just keep showing up, don't they? They teach us that if we avoid it, it comes around again, offering us that opportunity to learn. There's a great interview with Barack Obama when he's being interviewed by David Letterman on the show My Next Guest on Netflix. And he explains that in community organizing in Chicago, he would meet up with those limiters. And he thought that if he ran for office, the people who were above all that wouldn't be there, and they'd all come together for good. Instead, he learned that at every single level of government, with each office that he took, even in the presidency, they were there, right? He even talks about how he got to the G8 Global Summit, and he thought, finally, we're going to have the world's greatest minds together. No, the limiters were there. And so I am telling you that if you want to fuel, love is a verb, you need to figure out what the fear is under the limiter. What is fueling the fear? Seminary was the place where I began to ask that next question. When I came into groups where someone monopolized the conversation or played the naysayer, if I tried to avoid them, invariably they showed up at every single group I was assigned to. If I complained, there always was another seminary student there to ask, who is this person in your life, and what are they there to teach you? When there's a vacancy in someone's life, they may seek love by behaving poorly. Maybe love got stuck on the journey somewhere in their life and they are showing up deeply wounded. What does this have to do with Valentine's? Sometimes love is knowing a behavior is coming and thinking how you can be different in order to love. I spent years trying to control the others. It doesn't work. Right? I have to ask myself, why is this person here? What do they seek? And how can I emulate love in this moment? If they are full of energy and bananas behavior, I need to go calm. Right? If they are full of fear, I need to go love. Love is a flow. We aim to help love move throughout the community. And so when I'm doing my spiritual practice is when I can access that better wondering, right? The what's going on here. When I myself am depleted and not doing my spiritual practices, I heard one woman call it being prayered up. I thought that was cute. You know, you're full on meditation. You've done your walks. You've done your exercise, right? Whatever it is. You've drawn, you've sung. When you're in that space, you can show up and see what's going on here. What else is happening? I too have much to learn. There's an interim assessment that we have to do every 6 months, and one of the questions on it is your minister doing their spiritual practice? So y'all can ask me, and then I'll ask you. Countryside is like a giant group work project, right? Some sit and watch, others jump right in, sometimes they need coaching. There's great classes we offer on our leadership lab on the UUA website. There's classes in the region. You can go to GA. Judy Ball is going to help me recruit a bunch of you. We're all going to go to GA this year, right? Or you're going to attend online. Sometimes we need ministry. We need pastoral care to keep showing up, and therapists and medicine and conferences, right? All in order to practice deeper love. Some play different roles over time, and I assure you this goes on in every family, in every workplace. The same characters show up to teach you about love. This December, you all received a card from me. It was sort of like a Valentine. If you need another one, there's a big stack in the office. And I drew a piece of art called Many Paths to Love. And there were clues in there to remind you of some of the sermons that I've given recently. And I hope the symbols on it become both reminders and inspirations as you tape it to your refrigerator or inside your medicine cabinet, that we are on a path to love. We're always on the path. And if you want to talk more about that, send me a note to Reverend Denise at ccuu.org and tell me what that card reminds you of. So let's reflect together on how to make this congregation a place to support your paths to love. Because when you come here to get meditated up and worshiped up and prayed up and, forest bathed up, all those things, right? Then you can go out and create more love in the world. Our testimonials and in the Story for All Ages, we are reminded that in togetherness we can find that love. This Valentine's Day, think of those stories of those lovers seeking one another and how it is a metaphor for finding love and being loved by God or Spirit or great mystery or science. Think of Jesus and Buddha and Martin Luther King, and consider Howard Thurman and Greta Thunberg and Fannie Lou Hamer and Frances Eleanor Watkins Harper, Harriet Tubman and Ida B. Wells. Consider the way these leaders have called us to love big, love hard, take a chance on love, and be better at love. If you're sitting here with hurt hearts today, you're not alone. I see you. We see you. And if you are in need, you can ask this community for help. You can ask for hugs, you can ask for rides, you can ask for just someone to accompany you. The hurt is often an invitation to look at yourself, and that's hard. It's an invitation to go deeper in your own spiritual journey. So take Valentine's as your invitation to that journey. Now think of the love in your life. Think for a second. The love you feel and the love you witness. The love you remember and the love you long for. Your love of plants and ecosystems. Your love of food and community. These are glimpses of the nature of God, the nature of love. And if you are especially perceptive or especially mischievous, you can glimpse divine love even in places as ordinary as a sweet greeting card, in an arrangement of flowers, or in a graph showing what chocolates are which embossed on a heart-shaped lid. If we have eyes to see and ears to hear, the truth about love is that it's all around us. The Song of Songs, the symphony of all symphonies, echoing everywhere. This is your practice. We'll do it again.
Now that we are feeling the love, it is time to put our love into action in our pledges and in our weekly offering. This is a time to celebrate all we have by participating in the ritual of giving. We are reminded that we feel generous when we share what we have. We invite you at this time to text your gift or offer cash and checks into the offering basket. As always, guests are invited to let the basket pass them by, as we are joyful to have your gift of presents. Our offering will now be gratefully received.
So easy on its way.
And now please join us in our final hymn. The words will be on the screen, I believe, and also in your order of worship. Stand as you are willing and able, and sing this with your tongue in your cheek and a smile on your face. But, know this is kind of where we are. Here we go.
This is my favorite Valentine. This is Aiden Polly Hefter. And who else is here today?
Grandma,
What's Grandma's name?
Lori Colley.
All right. So I want to remind you all to get signed up for your cottage meetings. Go bananas about soup out there, all right? And do we have pictures, Louise?
Yes.
Moving joists, making calls, checking in, celebrating special times, I'm sure it says. I love this one. I garden for wildlife pollinators. There's a lot more of them. You should come up after service and see them. Would you help me do the benediction?
Yeah.
All right. Take this first one.
James Baldwin says, "Love takes off masks that we fear. We cannot live without, and we know we cannot live within."
Howard Thurman says, "In order to love you, I must deal with you at a point in you that is beyond all your faults, all your virtues, and I am always on the hunt for that, so that if I am pushed from within this deep, surging quest for the part of me that's in you, then I will not let you keep me from loving you. I will not give you that power." Adrienne Marie Brown says, "Now I live with these words from Pretus Hemphill. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you, and me simultaneously. Love, not tolerate or survive, but love. When I speak these words as a reminder, as mantra, they give me hope that no one has to be disposable or cut off from that vast connectivity of love. It's just a matter of distance." Now rise as you are able, and we're going to practice those hearts again, and this time we're also going to do it so that Louise can fan the crowd for the people at home. So you can either draw a heart with your hands, or you can make a heart with your hands. And now turn around and do it to the cameras so Luis back there can see you. So hold up your hearts so we tell everyone at home that we love you, and bow to each other with your hearts and send your love out to one another as you leave. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.